So it's always interesting to me how reviewers come up with their scores. You know, some reviewers start from 0 and they add marks based on everything good that a game does. Some reviewers will just play for ages and then do it based on vibes. Some reviewers will painstakingly mark the different aspects of the game out of 10 and then do a mathematical equation to figure out what it's worth. And then you have the final method, which is my personal method, which is to start out at 10 out of 10 and to ding marks off when there are really significant flaws. And Silksong has a few of them. First up, this game has a lot of precision platforming, and you have to do a big chunk of it with unreliable controls. Hornet's starting moveset is the Hunter Crest, which has a darting diagonal down swipe, and to me this is a disaster of ergonomics. I just couldn't reliably do it, and I know a lot of people out there felt the same. It had me changing controller between the Switch 2 D-pad, the Pro controller, an 8-bit Do controller, and even though a better D-pad helped out a little bit, I just couldn't input these controls reliably. I felt like I was doing exactly the right movements, exactly the same consistent movements, but every 4th or 5th time it just wouldn't work and I would fall and die. It's not just me, there are entire videos on YouTube dedicated to how bad this is, and after a bunch of hours of gameplay, I finally found the Reaper Crest that reverts the down swipe to a perfectly functional Hollow Knight style, and from that moment on, downstrike traversal and pogoing became a non-issue entirely. Suddenly 10 strong pogo courses posed absolutely no challenge at all. I was just flying over them in a really nice, intuitive way. So the fact that this was a widespread problem that was fixed by simply changing the style of input is enough for me to classify this as a game problem rather than a player problem. I died tens or scores of times because of this, and it caused me huge amounts of frustration, and I think it's a design flaw of ergonomics that would ding a full mark off the review score that I would give Silksong. The second big problem that I've got noted down here is cheaply inflated difficulty, which comes on a regular basis. This game has basic enemies that hit for almost half of your starting health. The same can be said for unavoidable traps and environmental obstacles, which you'll be hitting a lot because of that jumping I talked about. The game is hard enough and really doesn't need this unbalanced ramping up of the difficulty that just makes exploration tedious. In fact, it's so widely despised by players that mods have been made to address this stuff. And I think the biggest way that it's a problem for me is that in a Metroidvania, the difficulty will ramp up when you go into a new area or when you fight a difficult boss, but then there will also be mellow periods where you're just exploring, you're looking around, you're finding secrets. And I think that rhythm is really important for a Metroidvania game, the ramping up of pressure and then the release when you get to explore a new area. And I think by making basic exploration too hazardous, Silksong actually takes away some of that trajectory, some of that rhythm, and some of that fun. It's a weird balance issue and an unforced error, and to me it is significant enough to ding another mark off Silksong's score. That brings us to my third big problem with the game, and that is cheap bosses. And I will say up front that some of the bosses in this game are simply excellent, like Lace the Fencer, who offers a crisp and interesting fight early on, and I think one-on-one duels are where the game really shines.